ANC Second Deputy Secretary General Maropene Ramokgopa is now the Minister in the Presidency responsible for planning, monitoring and evaluation. It is not the first time that she works with the President, as she was the Chief Advisor when Ramaphosa was elected as the African Union Chair recently. Now, Ramokgopa is joining us to talk to us more about her new role in the Presidency. Minister, good morning to you, and congratulations are in order. Tell us how you plan to execute on this role, because in the Presidency you are there responsible for performance monitoring and evaluation, and I think that's a similar role to that of the party in your position at Luthuli House. Do these two positions feed into each other in any way?
Good morning, and thank you for having me, and thank you for the well wishes and the congratulations, of course. Indeed, you can say they feed into each other. However, they will be different because government and the ANC don't necessarily work in the same way. However, it's all about the planning, the performance, and the monitoring and evaluation of government and the deployees, of course, of the ANC, if you speak about the ANC. But as it relates to government, is the entire performance of governance and government, of course, as it relates to all spheres of government. But it also is in relation to the NDP itself, where we are, most especially because we are only left with 7 years in realizing the objective of the NDP itself. The Planning Commission, of course, is also going to really lead us in terms of ensuring that whatever it is that we do is streamlined to the vision that we have for the entire government, as opposed to only looking at sectors individually, but ours is more on making sure that all the plans that the sectors have in government speak to the plans or the one plan that government has put in place a while ago that will obviously reach its objective, or should reach its objective in 2030. So that's how we plan to actually ensure that we do our work and discharge our responsibilities in ensuring that, of course, government does perform as expected, because we are, or our clients, which is society and the electorate, do have expectations to be serviced, to be served, and most of all for accountability to be transparent and performance to at least be at par with what we have promised as government.
Yeah. Minister, I know you're relatively new in your position, but as someone who has served in the governing party for a while now, I'm sure you will be able to express an opinion, at least. It's not an informed opinion, it's just an opinion. And this is on the performance element of your job. At the moment, we are sitting with a strike by public sector workers, namely Nehawu. Part of the problem is that these workers are striking, and yet they are called, or they are categorized as essential service workers, which means they cannot go on strike. But there's something that was supposed to have been done a long time ago, and it has not been done, and that is the minimum service level agreement. If there was effective monitoring and the effective performance of ministers, surely the ministers that have been in this role, particularly in the role of public service and administration, should be wrapped over the coals right now because of this, what we're experiencing now. What would your comment be?
Luckily, we have had interactions with the then acting Minister of Public Service, Minister Thulas Mwesi, with also the Minister of Finance, of course, who have been in talks and bargaining with the unions for quite a very long time, trying to at least ensure that they reach an amicable agreement. So we do know that they have been hard at work. Unfortunately, as we all know, we haven't really been doing well in South Africa as it relates to our economy, not only in South Africa, but the world over, because we're just recovering, of course, from the COVID-19 pandemic and many other issues that affected our economy. As a result, there was a decision not only for public service only or public servants, but also public representatives and many other state apparatus to have a moratorium on costs that would then now make government not be able to function. And one of those cost conserving matters or issues has been the issue of not increasing salaries, not only of public servants, as I've already said, but representatives as well. So a lot of cost containment measures have been put in place. You have seen, of course, also on the traveling of different members of parliament and ministers and everyone else that is working for government, that the cost containment have been put in place, not only on traveling, but on many other issues. So the cost containment issue and making sure that at least we do not burden the fiscus, especially on the wage bill, has been something that has been put in place and discussions have been taking place. And I am well aware that bargaining has been taking place and the minister has been hard at work in ensuring that at least there were agreements. There were not agreements, of course, with other unions, of course, but I do believe that it is an ongoing process and we do hope that an agreement will be reached. It might not have to be something that everybody is happy about, but at least there should be consideration given to the fact that there should be cost containment that are put in place so that the fiscus should not be burdened more than it is already not doing so well. However, we do trust that the Minister of Public Service and all other ministers that are responsible will definitely be able to brief us in the near future so that we can know exactly how to intervene, where to assist, and the negotiations and dialogue with unions should still continue.
Let's talk about the SOCs and SOEs. That's also another area of weakness in government, and perhaps even weakness could be an understatement given companies like Eskom. Look at where it is today. Look at Transnet. Again, I'm asking you a similar question. Has that been a failure, particularly on the part of the minister that's responsible for monitoring and evaluation? And how can things be improved in that area?
As you may be aware, the President did mention that or pronounce that there will be a reconfiguration of government, and that would include the reconfiguration in particular of public enterprises department. And the plan, of course, is to just dismantle it all together and place SOEs in sectoral departments that will be responsible to ensure that the performance part of it should actually improve and be able to serve society and government as expected. And that obviously have been because of interactions from the presidency, including with the former minister, of course, of monitoring and evaluation. It is for this reason, of course, that it has been decided that government, in particular public enterprises, must be reconfigured so that SOEs must be placed where they can be able to perform better and maximally, so that we can be then now not find ourselves forever looking at SOEs being bailed out, which does not necessarily assist us that much. Therefore, the performance of SOEs is going to definitely need us to be able to improve how we implement monitoring and evaluation, and also the planning, of course. However, we are confident that with the reconfiguration of government, things will be better, and we'll definitely be able to monitor and evaluate the performance of those SOEs easier, most especially because they will be placed in sectors where the operation will then now not just be broad, but it would be an operation that is objective and subjective in terms of what they should be able to do.
Yeah. Let me close the conversation around your work, your scope of work in the position you find yourself in today. But I want to close it on this note, and that is that you are one of the ministers, and you'll correct me if I'm wrong here, you're one of the ministers whose responsibility as well is to ensure that the signed performance agreements with the ministers and the president, those are effectively carried through. In other words, if there's a minister who doesn't perform, that minister should simply be fired. Do you think that South Africans will ever see the day that as a result of the Minister of Performance and Agreement saying, Minister X, you have not performed. I have therefore recommended to the president that he let you go. Do you think that we'll ever see that come to light, especially when you are at the helm of this department?
It is definitely our plan to recommend. Unfortunately, it is not in our powers to actually implement. Recommendation will definitely do because that's what we are here for. If we fail to actually be able to recommend the remedial measures that should be put in place in non-performing departments, then it means that we would have failed in our duties as well. So we will definitely be recommending such. Obviously, we'll first start in evaluating why there would be a non-performance in specific areas or specific departments, and our recommendation will be based obviously on a scientific approach and not just our views and our ideas. So that's exactly what we are going to do. We will recommend to the president based on the performance of different departments, including on ministers and DGs and general performance, of course, of government as a whole. So you are quite correct. That's what we are here for.
Okay. All right. Well, we're going to have to hold you to that. Let me conclude the conversation on the note of politics. You will probably know the talk right now, and that is that the president is building a super presidency, and what he has done is to pack it with a number of people that are seen to be close to him, and you are certainly one of those people. Do you think the public is correct to understand what has happened in this way, that the president has packed his presidency with a number of his lieutenants?
Not at all. As far as I'm concerned, and I can speak for myself and my colleagues, of course, we are public representatives. We have been politics, the three of us, or the four of us, as most especially our senior colleague, minister in presidency, responsible for women, children, and youth and people with disabilities. All of us have been in the ANC for the past 20 years. In our own right, we have contributed, of course, to politics, and we have grown in politics, but we have also served in a number of positions in government, from local government to provincial government. Some of us have also been in the international space. So therefore, we are here because we don't don't necessarily deserve, because we are appointed obviously because of at the behest of the president, of course. However, it is precisely because we've been member of the ruling party, and I do believe that we've got something to offer to government for it to be able to serve the people of South Africa. So I do not agree that we have been put there because we are somehow close to the president. All comrades are close to the president. However, in terms of the issue of super presidency, I also do not agree that there is a super presidency being built. It is just that there are some things that would work better if they are under the authority of the president. However, then it becomes important that you put an executive authority to be able to push some of those things on behalf of the president, but under the presidency. So maybe there is that confusion. However, that is my own understanding of why there is a number of people that are now placed under presidency directly as executive authority. It is just to ensure that we expedite some of these things that are urgent that needs to actually be implemented. Service delivery is quite important. It is for this reason that DPME has been set aside to be able to look at the issues of the planning, the performance, and the monitoring and evaluation, so that we can then now be able to ensure that service delivery does happen, and if it doesn't happen, how do we intervene? The issue of electricity, I don't even have to say much about it. I'm sure that you know where we are. Yeah. Therefore, it is necessary to be able to place someone directly to deal with that, and I think the president has labored on that quite a lot, and many other people have been able to explain it. And so it goes with other departments or other ministries that are placed under the president. It is because there's a special need that needs special attention and agency in implementation. It is for this reason that we are placed under presidency. That would be my answer to your question.
Yeah, but there is this worry, though, that the presidency is the only government department that does not account to Parliament. And the fear there, particularly with the state of disaster that has been declared, that it is that monies that are going to start flowing, there may not be accountability, particularly with the various executive authorities that sit in the presidency.
Well, I do account to Parliament. For example, I was actually in a parliamentary caucus right now and committee where I do account. And you must also remember that we don't only account to Parliament, but there are accountability institutions like the AG that would be able to also do an audit on government expenditure and state expenditure, of course, because taxpayers' money cannot just be utilized without them being accounted for. So maybe it might not be because there's a state of disaster, and there is a disaster, there's agency right now. Yeah. It had to be put in place. Accountability will still take place. Maybe it may not take place like other general or normal accounting institutions, but definitely accountability will be there. And I, as an individual, have confidence that there will be no issues of corruption that would take place, most especially when we are placed in presidency, because the president has been very clear when he took over as the president. His administration will definitely have no tolerance for corruption. So therefore, I do believe that things will go well and accountability will take place, and we will also be there to ensure that we monitor such things so that we can then be able to curb some of the things that may not necessarily make our society to be comfortable. However, also we must also understand that when something is new and people do not understand it, they tend to reject it and have this level of wondering what is happening. However, I'm saying that please give us time, give the ministries that are put in place time, and let us see. And I do believe that you will definitely be satisfied. So let us talk at least, let's give it time, 3 months, 6 months, or a year, and then we will speak after that. But I have confidence that accountability will definitely be there, but most of all, performance will definitely be at the prime of whatever it is that we are doing.
Final question. I promise I'm letting you go.
Okay.
Do you think that the president is going to see out his term of office, depending whether, of course, he is brought back or the ANC is brought back in 2024. And I ask you this question on the back of the Phala Phala scandal. Are you worried that the president may not finish his term of office?
I do not have any worry, because I do believe that the law enforcement agencies will definitely do their work. And I do have confidence that the president has been able to say what needs to be said. And he has also ensured that he worked together with or cooperate with the law enforcement agencies and many other institutions like Parliament and so forth and so on. So I do believe that he's going to finish his term without a doubt. And I also do believe that the ANC will definitely win elections next year. Him as the president of the ANC will continue to be the president of the country. That's my answer to you.
Very confident indeed, Maropene Ramokgopa, the minister in the presidency responsible for monitoring performance and evaluation. All right.